Hey guys, Sheldon here, physical therapist, athletic trainer, performance coach, and today I want to talk to you about nutrition and how I go about it, just to kind of keep it simple for you because there's so many different thought processes out there, but at the end of the day, it can be overwhelming and overtaxing to the body. And yesterday I did a Facebook Live talking about stress, physical and mental stress, and just kind of recap on that real quick. Physical stress being, as an athlete or someone working out a lot, or even maybe at your job, your, tendency is over time, if you're not aware of or pay attention to intentional things, the lactic acid, inflammation in the body can lead to injury. On the flip side, mental stress can be, your symptoms or side effects are fatigue, headaches, migraines, anger, emotional issues, anxiety, different stuff like that. So, physical and mental, they all kind of hand in hand interchange, and also how it affects your body. And so, I was thinking about this morning, it started, a lot of days I like to start the day at the gym because I'm just kind of, in general, when I wake up, there's just a lot to do. And I'm like, you know what? I can think clear when I'm at a little bit lower level, meaning when you wake up and you're sympathetic, your nervous system, like you're just ready to go, yet you're kind of your thought process all over the place. Well, the gym kind of helps me just kind of stabilize, neutral out, and get, ready for the day. So, after that, I went to the grocery store and I started thinking about this. I was like, man, when I'm going to the grocery store, I really honestly don't like going because there's so many options and it can be overwhelming and it can be stressful. So at the end of the day, it's like, what are the techniques and what do I actually use when I'm going through looking for certain food items? And so maybe this will help you because, everyone's got to find their own routine and what works best for you. But what's helped me keep it simple, because I have so many people at work always asking, well, what do you do? What do you eat? How do you, whatever, when you shop, what kind of foods do you eat? And so for me, it's always kind of the same answer over and over. So I thought about this, well, this would be a good time to plug this in. But a couple things I want to hit real quick is acid versus alkaline. So one of the topics that I always like to educate on and how this applies to, the side effects of stress is, acidic, meaning inflammation, which leads to a lot of different disease conditions out there, physical, mental. But, when I'm looking at foods, I like to always categorize them in acid versus alkaline. So keep it simple. If you don't understand what that is, go Google it. You can see kind of the food scale. It shows acid is more like your Cokes, your sugar, your fried foods, meats, red meats, stuff like that. To the alkaline, your more green leafy vegetables, healthier stuff that a lot of times just doesn't taste good. So, some of the neutral stuff could be like your certain fruits and vegetables, chicken, fish, water. Even sometimes water can fall on a little bit acidic scale, and people don't think about that. But, the more acidic it is, the, things like your mood, your anxiety, your stress levels, weight gain, stuff like that. So the more alkaline, honestly, this is probably a quick little tip here is, if you're looking to lose weight, go more alkaline, because a lot of people don't think about this, but the more acidic things you have in your life, stress or diet wise, then it's always gonna be a struggle to lose the weight. So long story short, when I'm looking at foods, I was like acid versus alkaline. So the more alkaline foods I can have throughout the day, the better. So, today when I was going to the grocery store, I'm looking at, okay, what fruits, vegetables can I get? Honestly, as far as vegetables go, I'm not a picky eater. So I kind of like everything, so I just know okay, this is good for me, I'm gonna eat it. So I'll get, a variety of vegetables. Fruits, I'm I'm a lot more particular because honestly, American fruits have a lot of sugar in them. So even though people tell you that fruits are good for you, yes and no, you gotta have it in moderation. So for me, these are just my favorites. Doesn't have to be something you like. I usually typically get blueberries, strawberries, blackberries. That's just because they're more my preference. Every once in a while, bananas have a lot of sugar, but so do these. So here's the thing is, when you're eating fruits, just know that you want to do it in moderation because, again, you can't overconsume on the fruits, and then that's more sugar, more weight gain, and are you really actually helping your problem? So with that being said, think about two, organic versus non-organic. So that's the second thing. So the first thing is acid versus alkaline. Does it fit the scale of alkaline versus acidic? So you want more alkaline throughout the day in your body. And so two, organic versus non-organic. Now, a lot of people are having a little controversy on this, but for me, just think about this is a lot of foods where they're grown, a lot of times if they're non-organic, there's a chance of maybe pesticides, different chemicals, that are sprayed to keep the amount of insects, off the crop so they're better crops. So that gets in the soil, so then that gets in your foods, and then that gets in your body. And so here's the thing is, if I go today to the grocery store and I buy something that's organic versus non-organic, is this one time not getting the non-organic versus organic going to change my life? Probably not, but you never know. So I kind of, always just treat it as the mindset of, it's a long term, it's kind of like a marathon. So the more healthy, natural food that you can get into your body over time versus stuff that's synthetic, stuff that comes in a box, that sits in a can, you know, that sits on a shelf life. So one thing that someone always told me is like, you know, if it's dead and it can sit on a shelf, that's how it's gonna feel, that's how your body's gonna react. You're gonna feel dead and you're not gonna thrive. But if it has to be refrigerated or, you know, has a shelf life, you know, it can only last so long, or like certain fruits and vegetables have to keep cold and water on it to live, then that's what you want, because then that's gonna, when you eat that, that's how your body's gonna, you're gonna thrive and you're gonna have more energy and life in yourself. So that made sense. But so here's what I would say is definitely try to look at, you know, obviously it was a little bit more expensive, but you're gonna pay for it now, you're gonna pay for it later. Now, when I worked in the hospital setting, it was very sad, but you know, a lot of people just were, you know, they're just not methodical on this, not intentional, and they would just eat what they wanted to. And you probably can get away with it when you're younger, but it does add up over time. And then when you start having organ failure or you're on constant medications that lead to a million different side effects, that's where the expenses come in. So yeah, it is a little bit more expensive buying organic, but at the end of the day, it's like, hey, the more organic stuff I can have and the less potential for all these negative side effects that come with the chemicals. And again, so like it may be subtle over the years that you're eating non-organic, meaning that there, you know, stuff's getting in your system. So, you know, the subtleness being like your mood, you know, maybe you're kind of more lethargic throughout the day, you're more emotional, more anxiety, you don't sleep well. So they all go hand in hand, but so always try to get organic if possible. Never cut costs on your health, because you're gonna pay for it now, you're gonna pay for it later, is always my theory. So the third, you know, so first was acid versus alkaline, second organic versus, you know, non-organic. And then third, what I'm looking at too is kind of like your main groups, your fats, your proteins, and your carbs. So this is also controversial, so many different diets out there, but for me, and I'm just, again, telling you all this from where I'm coming from and, you know, how I treat myself, because you have to think about this too, is like, what kind of lifestyle are you trying to live? Are you an athlete? Are you, you know, just an average person out there, just you work hard, you know, you have an active lifestyle on the weekend? Are you sedentary? Are you, you know, maybe you're following a certain diet plan? Here's the thing is, you, depending on, for me, I kind of just treat this as, how do I want my body to look? Because I'm more of, you know, when I'm working out, and I'm working out intentionally, you know, for maintenance, to stay in shape, health reasons, but I'm also, there's different reasons that you'll want to go through certain diet plans. Is maybe you want to get a different look. Maybe you want to bulk your look, more lean cut look. Maybe you, who knows what kind of look you want. Maybe you're a runner, you know, your endurance type activity. So, so for me, when I look at fats, you know, treat fats kind of like, so the best way to describe this, that someone told me, is like, think about a campfire. Fats are kind of like the coals. So you have that long burning energy. And let's just say the wood is kind of like your proteins. And then the kindling, or like the twigs you put on top to get the fire started, is like your carbs. So carbs, like when you eat them, you know, you're gonna get that kind of the quick burst of energy maybe, but then you're gonna kind of that up and then that back down. So like sugars, you know, they're gonna get that up and then down. You may feel good, but then all of a sudden your crash is a lot worse. And that's how you gotta treat it in your body. Proteins, you know, they're more steady, kind of like the wood. But then your fats are gonna be like that coal, that long lasting burning fuel that gives you that long-term energy. So here's where I want to kind of wrap this back into, as far as you know, when and how you eat these foods. But you know, for me, I've always kind of done a little bit of what they call the intermittent fasting. And I'm not very diligent on this. You know, I'm not strict, honestly. Like most people always ask me, like, who do you keep? As far as counting calories and stuff like that, I have never counted calories. The only thing I look at is the acidity versus alkalinity of the food, the amount of sugars, organic versus non-organic, and then go off the fats, proteins, and carbs. So I try to usually consume amount of higher of proteins and fats and a lower amount of carbs. That's just always been my theory. I'm not very detailed at measuring stuff out. Honestly, I'm on the go so much and so busy, it's hard to, you know, if I had to sit there, I think, and count out calories and how much I'm eating and measure it out, I'd probably, stress levels would go up. To me, it's a waste of time. But again, some people have to do that because they need to be a little bit more diligent, and they are trying to measure where their fats are at and their body percent fat. Maybe they have a health condition, they have to to measure all this out. So, you know, you got to do what's best for you. Don't just take my advice. I'm just telling you kind of what's worked for me. But so again, you know, recap on that, the fats, long lasting energy, like coals. Your proteins are kind of like the wood in the fire. You know, you're gonna get that sustained energy, but also that sense of fullness. And then your carbs are gonna kind of be that spike of energy. So I would say if you're an athlete and you're at least working out 1 to 2 hours a day, then yeah, you may have a higher amount of carb intake versus, you know, some people out there, they maybe only go 30 minutes, maybe only 3 or 4 days a week. So lower your carb intake. And, you know, here's one thing going back to the intermittent fasting is, and this is kind of a cool concept, I never thought about this, but you know, breakfast is actually when they considered breaking fast. And so a lot of people never taught this growing up, but it's very biblical and going back into ancient history. But, you know, when you break your fast, meaning you have breakfast and you eat, you know, the best thing you can do, and you got to, again, start with where you're at. But let's just say you're wanting to lose weight. Okay, there's 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds amount of weight you're wanting to lose. Then you say, okay, I'm gonna be diligent and I'm gonna say, I'm gonna do my intermittent fasting. I'm gonna eat, you know, between a 6 to 8 hour window each day. Meaning, let's just say you break your fast, or you don't eat breakfast, rather. So you skip breakfast, maybe you just have water, you know, something, you know, just for the hydration part. And then at noon, between 12 at noon to 6, 7, or 8 p.m., that's the only time that you consume any kind of calories or food. So studies actually show that you can actually eat more, probably worse foods than if you ate between a 12-hour, 14-hour window, and you would come out better on the other end. So it's kind of crazy, but you know, so for me, you know, most people, here's the problem is they rush into it and they try to do it all at once, and then they burn out. So it's kind of like you're not gonna go to the gym and work out 5 or 6 hours at one time. You're gonna do it a little bit over time. So treat your diet like that. So the intermittent fasting, you're gonna go in there and you're gonna do probably, I would tell people start with an 8 hour window. You know, start from, let's just say 11 a.m. till 7 p.m. or 12 p.m. till 8 p.m., something like that. Don't have those late night snacks, even if it's a little bit, because our organs need that chance to rest. When they're resting, they're healing. We don't think about that, but our body is doing a lot of intentional healing when you're sleeping and you're at rest. So when you're getting these late night snacks or you're snacking throughout the day, you're constantly taxing your nervous system. What does that do? You know, people are like, well, I need to eat these snacks throughout the day for more energy. You don't have to eat, especially if you're not working out. You just think you are, because people tell you, everyone's following everyone else's diet. So, you know, you'll have someone that's maybe only works out 3 days a week, and they eat their breakfast, they eat a mid-morning snack, they eat their lunch, they eat an afternoon snack, they eat dinner, and they eat a snack later in the evening. It's like you have all this food throughout the day and they're not even burning the calories. So unless they're an athlete and they're working out an hour, 2 hours a day, you know, there's no need for them to consume that many calories. So go back to, you know, the intermittent fasting. Let's just say you did an 8 hour window. Okay, the next week, let's say you go down to 7 hours. Your body will adjust where, you know, at first, yeah, it is a little bit tough. It's mindset. But here's what I always say is, like, you know, it's what are your goals and how bad do you really want them? You just got to either plug into an accountability partner, or you just got to do it. Sometimes just don't even think about it. And that's always been my, probably the best thing for me, is just don't think about it, just do it and just go move forward. But, so yeah, so start out maybe 8 hours, then work your way down to 7 hours next week, and then probably 6 hours. And then once you get in that routine and we get to that desired weight you want, then, you know, then you can go back to your normal schedule. So here's what I like to do is, and this is for me, is this kind of, you know, the intermittent fasting is kind of intermittent, to be honest with you, because it's here and there of how I treat it. So I'm very strategic throughout the day. You know, let's just say, real quick, I want to say this too. When they did that testing, they showed that actually you could do the 5 days a week diligent and then eat whatever you wanted on the weekends, and it wouldn't mess up your diet plan. So that was really cool, I thought. So anyways, so my thought process is, no, long-term, look at this long-term. It's not like, unless you just really need results right away and you follow that strategic plan, then long-term, what can you do to go in there and diligently, you know, throughout your day? And it's kind of like, for me, it's seasonal, because like right now it's college football, and, you know, on the weekends, you know, maybe there's events, there's probably not the best food out, you know, when you're going watching football. So if I know that I'm going to be eating, you know, probably on the weekends, bad food, something that has a lot of carbs or whatever it is, then I'm going to follow my strategic intermittent fasting. Maybe I don't, quite eat until noon that day. And then, if I'm gonna go watch games, because games are usually toward the evening, the better games, then I consume my calories more toward the end of the day. Or, again, I know that, okay, that's the weekend, then I'm gonna be very diligent throughout the week on what I eat and then just enjoy the weekend. So, whatever it is, you have to look at your goals. And I would just say, long-term, save yourself. This is super easy. It can save you a lot of money in the long term where you're not on all these medications. Actually, really quick, I want to show you because, this probably for the past, well, even more, like 10, 12 years, maybe, yeah, 12 years, something like that. I've never taken medication. Really, even growing up, I never took medications. I used to get bad headaches and migraines when I was in high school, or growing up, high school, college. But then when I got really diligent on, food-wise and, what I was eating, the time of day I was eating, then, things just started falling back in place. So then I was like, oh crap, this is crazy. I could, my headaches and migraines went away. I started sleeping better, energy levels were better, workouts were better. I wasn't having to work out as long or as hard to get the results. And it was just, things were a lot easier. And so then I just tell people, was like, once you get this pattern down and you find out what works best for you, then life is so much simpler. So real quick, I want to show you this because, earlier I was talking about supplementation. One of the things that I think honestly everyone has to do if they want to live a strategic long-term life is be very strategic about, not only what you're putting in your body throughout the day, throughout the week, but also long-term. See, if most of these foods don't have all the nutrient content in them that they should, and you're busy, you're on the go, you've got family, you got kids, you got events, realistically, if you're like me, even though you know what to eat, sometimes you don't just have the time to eat it or to make it because you're on the go. And so strategically for me, if I knew I wasn't gonna be able to cook or get all the nutrient content that I needed, I knew I had to supplement. So, with that being said, over the last 10, 12 years, I never get sick. I've never had to take medications. So it's just been a lot easier road, but I have supplemented and I've spent my money, what I call my meds or my supplements, if that makes sense. So, I'll use a variety of different things, but again, they all have their own purpose. I don't take them all at once, so that wouldn't make sense to just take everything all day. But there are different things, for sleeping better, to get because again, your sleep is your recovery. So if you sleep better, you feel better and we're more productive. And for me, business is very important. So if I'm going to have a healthy, sustainable day and I want to think clear, I'm only as good as I can think. And so one thing is, a lot of people don't think about this is, your fats that are, the reason there was, sometimes I think people don't think about this, but, the reason you want to have a lower fat content is the fat is actually toxins in your body. And so if you actually saw pictures of it, you'd be grossed out. But, anatomy classes, when we used to have to dissect and, pull these fats out of your people's bodies, you'd see these just layers of grease and fat. So here's one thing to think about is if you're sluggish, you're tired all the time, you don't sleep well, your brain is the fattest organ in the body. So you're basically, a lot of these chemicals and toxins, like these metals and things that are leading to different diseases long-term, say like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, different stuff like that, dementia. I think if you just really sit back and think about this, strategically over the years, you can control pretty much, not always, but be very strategic about your destiny as far as where you're going to go and what kind of health conditions you're going to face long term. And so again, it's never a clear-cut answer, and you got to kind of trial and error with your body. But again, just keep it simple. Recap this. So acid versus alkaline, higher alkalinity. You're definitely going to have everything from more positive mood, sleeping better, less joint pain, less inflammation. So every disease is linked to some kind of inflammatory process. Your body, depending on the more alkaline it is, basically the cells work and do what they should do. So organic versus non-organic. So the more organic foods over time that you can put in your system, the more natural whole foods, the better. Just again, because of all the harsh chemicals and the free radicals that break down our body. Your fats, carbs, proteins, kind of look at it like a campfire. And then, supplementation, what are you doing to be strategic and methodical versus medication? And so here's probably the easiest thing is if you can sum this all up into one sentence is, the quickest and easiest way is not the best way. So yeah, you do have to put a little bit of effort into it. To be honest with you, your results are gonna be way better. You're gonna feel better, you're gonna look better, you're not gonna age as quickly, and you're gonna enjoy life to the fullest.